And you may notice some things being passed around. Those are different examples of what we're doing here. And it's self-patterning sock yarn. You can see this is actually 3 skeins, but they're all really, really long. So in order to dye self-patterning sock yarn, you need to make long repeats of color. And so to do that, you need a really big skein. So here I am with my swanky PVC pipe warping board, like when you use for weaving. And I wind it in three sections. That's about 2.5 pounds of yarn on there. It took me about 2 or 3 days to wind each one of those. And it's tied in a million places because the big challenge with a big skein is not to get it tangled. And it can get tangled. So the next trick is to get it off the warping frame. And I use, again, a weaver's trick where I take it off the skein, off the frame, and I start chaining it like you do a crochet chain, so it turns into this really big crochet chain. And of course, it looks like hair, so I have to play with it a little bit once it's off the frame. But that stabilizes it, so I don't have to worry about it getting tangled once it's like that. So I do 3 of those. And once they're all wound, I lay them out on my dye table, and you can see in the bottom the chains coming undone. That's all 3 skeins laying over my dye table. And it looks all mild-mannered now, but it slithers around, and when I'm dyeing it, it's wet, and it's drippy, and it's all kinds of fun. Now, I mix up the dye, and I usually don't firm up my plan until I'm actually dyeing the yarn. And you can see I try it on the paper to see what the color's going to come up like, and then we use these sponge brushes to apply the dye. There I am, seeing if all my colors play nice together. And this technique, you actually apply the dye to dry yarn, and you put the vinegar in the dye rather than wetting the yarn beforehand. And so here I am applying the dye. You notice the mark on the left-hand skein? That is how long one row of a 60-stitch sock is. And so that way I can decide how many rows of each color I want to do. And then I do one side, flip it over, and do the other side, because it doesn't soak through. And then you can see I'm wrapping it in plastic. So this long, slithery skein, wet, it's wrapped in plastic. And as I wrap them up, I keep moving them down, and then I can do other colors. This is like a cross-hatching, where I do, that gives you kind of a ferile look. And the interesting thing is it looks really neat and tidy, but once it's, the dye set, it kind of, blends a little bit, so it's not as crisp as that. And here you can see the yarn coming down the side of my dye table. And once I get a color done, I tie it up in a plastic bag, because even though I wrap it up in the plastic wrap comes open, and I don't want bits of one color getting on another. So I go along and I do all these different colors. And you see I do some different cross-hatching, and I just keep going and going and going, slithering it around the dye table and up the other side until it's all done, and bagging them up as I go. And so eventually, that great big set of skeins is all tied up in plastic bags, and I can steam it. And so you can see that, see there it is, all that's like weighs a ton. And so it's in the steamer, steam it for a long time. I didn't do any pictures of getting it out of the plastic and all that, because there's cussing, and it's, it's a real pain, and to rinse it. And it takes, I take it down so it takes about a week and a half to dry. Now here we're winding it. And if you look, Steph, who took the pictures, was standing in the same spot looking one way and the other way. And that's my friend Gail holding one end of the skein, and that's me at the other end. That far away, it's probably as far as from Guido to over here. Winding, 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 and she lets go of one strand, and I keep winding, and all 3 of these skeins of yarn, you just wind them up one at a time, and until they're in big cakes about this size. And you can see I'm very pleased with myself that we got them all wound. Gail, who held the other end of the yarn, is really good. But not done winding. Now that they're wound in big balls, I have to wind them into the separate skeins to give them to each of the sock club people. I only do this once a year for my sock club members. And there they are, happy sock club people with their yarn. That's Gail and Stephanie, who took all the pictures. And then we'll have a little sample of it. Slide. Get up. And I want to thank my friend Stephanie, who took all the pictures with her iPhone, and Gail, who is, we call the yarn whisperer because she's really wonderful with yarn, and that's the best set of winding we had, because it usually acts up way more than that. So thank you very much for coming.